You're on the cusp of a discovery, something that could fundamentally reshape how you seek and find the love that's truly meant for you. And before your heart defaults to the skepticism of those who have waited and suffered, just breathe. Because what you're about to hear isn't empty promises or reworked self-help cliches. It's a profound understanding of what blocks authentic connection, a direct warning from the wisdom of Carl Jung. He observed that as long as you unconsciously nurture these silent forces, you're pushing away precisely what your heart craves the most. Yes, there's something, a hidden obstacle, that might be preventing you from meeting the right person. And what's truly shocking, it's not about a lack of beauty, or effort, or even inherent worth. It's something subtle, invisible, and deeply ingrained. Something that acts like a reverse magnet, silently repelling the love you long for. And you might be fueling it every single day, completely unaware. Does that sound harsh? It's because it is. And Jung wouldn't have sugar-coated his words to spare you a moment's discomfort if he thought it would condemn you to a lifetime of unsatisfying relationships. That's why this isn't just another Find Love in 5 Steps video. It's an emotional and symbolic revelation about what truly hinders your soul from finding another that resonates with your most authentic frequency. The first truth might sting. A part of you has learned to hide, not out of cowardice, but out of sheer survival. Perhaps you loved too deeply, and the other person didn't know what to do with it. Maybe you gave so much that you were left empty. And when that happens, the soul erects invisible barriers, nurturing the very two forces that push true love further away. An unconscious fear of opening up again, and the illusion of control over the pathways of destiny. Yes, these are the two unseen keys that Jung repeatedly encountered in the stories and experiences of thousands of patients. Fear masquerading as emotional independence, and control disguised as spirituality or rationality. On the surface, they both seem like virtues, but they're masks worn by a wounded ego. They're armor that protects you from pain, but they also prevent you from feeling the full spectrum of real love. And this is where things start to click. Think for a moment. How many times have you met someone, and before a connection could even begin to blossom, your subconscious was already analyzing, calculating, predicting, questioning? Will they betray me? Will they leave like everyone else? Is this really my destiny, or just another lesson disguised as romance? And then, without even realizing it, you sabotage the relationship, you distance yourself, or you give up too quickly in a desperate attempt to prove you're worthy of love, precisely because you don't believe it will come naturally. Jung said the love that's meant for you isn't something you find, it's something you allow. And to allow, you have to release everything your ego has built up to protect you. Fear, guilt, control, and above all, the need to always be right about everything. But how do you do that, when from an early age we're taught to fight for everything, to control our feelings, to anticipate risks before plunging into the unknown? The answer lies in the shadow. And no, I'm not talking about something dark or esoteric in the superficial sense. I'm talking about what Jung called the unlived side of the soul, the aspects you suppressed, hid, swallowed down to avoid rejection, to gain acceptance, to fit in. And therein lies the core problem. When you deny parts of yourself to be loved, the universe understands that love must come to that distorted version, not to who you truly are. And the love that arrives isn't the love that's destined for you. It's love that matches your mask, your persona, your adaptation. Now, do you understand why so many relationships leave you drained? Why even when there's passion, there remains a strange quietness deep inside, as if something isn't in its right place. Because it isn't. You're trying to live authentic love with a hidden soul, and until that changes, the right people won't find you. Not because they don't exist, but because they can't recognize you. It's as if you're wearing an invisible mask, a different scent, a wrong vibration. And no matter how much you believe you're ready to love, these two forces continue to operate beneath the surface. The fear of reliving the pain and the control to evade the unpredictability that any real connection brings. So today, here, now, I invite you to take off the mask. Acknowledge that maybe you're still loving with your scars, and not your heart. Dare to admit that it's not life that's hindering love. It's you rushing things. Carl Jung revealed that destiny isn't what happens when we're ready. It's what requires us to let go of who we thought we should be, to allow the soul to manifest what it always knew. You don't need to chase love. You need to stop running from yourself. And maybe, just maybe, in that very moment of acceptance, you'll begin to shift your frequency. Start sending out a real, pure, emotionally honest signal. And then what seemed impossible, that rare, profound, inexplicable connection, will start to draw closer. But it will only be possible if you stop feeding those two forces. In the next video, on our channel, I'll show you exactly how these forces manifest in everyday life, in subtle thoughts, automatic phrases, in subtle decisions you make without realizing it, and how they subtly push away the only person who could truly see you as you are. The question I leave you with until then is this: are you ready to stop being who you were taught to be, and start being who you were truly born to be loved? Have you ever noticed how certain patterns seem to repeat, as if life insists on playing the same melody, only with new faces, new settings, and sometimes an even more subtle ache? You change the city, the job, even the way you dress. But there it is again, the emptiness that appears after the initial charm, the strange silence after a few weeks of euphoria, the feeling that you gave too much again and received less than you deserved. You might think it's just bad luck or fate, or just another unfinished story among the many that no longer fit into your memory. But what if Jung was right? What if it's all just a reflection of the internal forces you're nurturing without realizing it? Forces that don't shout, don't make a scene, but with almost cruel precision shape your every move. Let's talk about this more directly, more intimately. You're in the car, driving to work. The same route as always. The radio is playing some song, but your thoughts are far away. You're remembering a look that wasn't returned, a message that never came, and somewhere deep inside, as if it lives within you, a voice whispers, "Maybe you're not good enough," and you don't answer back, because that voice already feels like part of your normal thoughts, almost like breathing. You just accept it. You enter the elevator. You greet everyone out of habit. You avoid the mirror. And again, in that mechanical silence, another thought slips by. You should be slimmer, younger, more interesting, and you don't answer back either. So, day after day, you feed the two forces we talked about in the first part, the fear of not being loved as you are, and the attempt to control what can only be felt. It's such a subtle process that many don't even notice it, but it's present in everything. It's in the compliment you deflect with false modesty. It's in the invitation you decline, even though you want to accept. It's in how you pretend you're not waiting, but you check your phone 18 times a day to see if he or she has remembered you. And the cruelest thing about it all is that your soul remains there, waiting, hoping that it will be called to real love. But the body continues to fuel the defenses. The ego continues to bargain. The subconscious continues to repeat the old script. Carl Jung said that what you deny in yourself dominates you, and most of us were taught to deny precisely what makes us attractive: sensitivity, vulnerability, the sincere desire to connect with someone who sees us whole, including parts we ourselves don't like to look at. When you deny your need for deep attachment, you become rigid, rational, efficient, but tired inside. When you deny your pain from not being loved in the past, you become strong, independent, self-sufficient, but inside, needing a meaningful attachment. And the world applauds this version, the one that works a lot, that doesn't cry, that overcomes everything. But the price of this is you start attracting people who don't see your nuances, who fall in love with your strength, but don't know how to handle your shadow. That's why so many relationships start intensely and end in emptiness, because they were connected to your image, not to your essence. I want to tell you something now that maybe you've never heard so clearly. The love that is meant for you won't recognize you while you're trying to appear as someone who has survived life. It will only come when you decide to live all that it means. And to live, according to Jung, meant allowing the soul to re-enter into dialogue with the unconscious. It meant looking inside yourself with brutal honesty. It meant sitting next to the wounded child and saying, "Now I'm listening to you." It meant recognizing the masks of the ego, not to destroy them, but to understand them. And above all, it meant stopping running from what scares you the most, being seen completely. Imagine a 57-year-old woman. Her name is Clara. She has been divorced for over 10 years. She says she's no longer looking for anyone, that she's at peace with herself. But at night, when she makes the bed and only opens it from one side, when she chooses movies where the endings are always solitary, when she refuses invitations, saying that everything is fine. A part of her is still crying, still hoping, still believing, but she no longer allows herself to. Or imagine Andre, 43 years old, divorced. He constantly says that it's better this way, but he sleeps with his cell phone in his hand. And every time a notification sounds, his heart is fooled for a split second, thinking that maybe it's someone returning to truly love him. They aren't just lonely people. They're you. They're all of us. Because before learning to love another, we needed to learn to love what we feel. But we were taught to hide, to be strong, and to keep going, even if inside our chest is breaking into pieces. And that's why fear and control become our companions. Because if I can't feel everything, then I must anticipate everything. And if I can't be loved as I am, then I must become someone who deserves it. But true love, the love of destiny, doesn't work that way. It doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't fit into your plans. It requires surrender. It requires self-abandonment. It requires you to stop fighting, and for the first time, allow yourself to be found. But this requires preparation. And here's an important point. It's not enough just to understand Jung. You need to practice his teachings. Make it a habit. Make it your path. Therefore, if somewhere inside you this text makes sense, if you feel that the time has come to remove your armor, but you don't yet know how, there's a door that can open right now. I invite you to explore the ebook, The Jung Method, 5 minutes a day for inner peace and mental clarity. It's not just theoretical reading. It's a process of returning to yourself, of immersion, of emotional reorganization. It's simple, but deeply symbolic practices for those who want to stop just surviving and start loving consciously. The link is in the pinned comment of this video. No need to rush, just feel when the right moment arrives. And if it has arrived, let it be a new beginning. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract love so effortlessly, while others, maybe like you, seem to be perpetually stuck in a cycle of disappointments, silences, or relationships that begin promisingly but end with a sense of incompleteness? Have you noticed that often the issue isn't who comes along, but who you become when someone comes along? Let's now remove all the layers of illusion, because what comes next could profoundly change how you interpret your own actions and even your memories of what you've already experienced. When we say that fear and control are the two main obstacles on the path to love, many imagine this in obvious contexts. People who are too cold or want to know the whole life of another in 3 days, but it's not just that. In fact, these two forces manifest much more subtly, and that's why they continue to operate for years, even decades, going unnoticed. Let's be honest. Have you ever caught yourself lowering your expectations to avoid disappointment? Have you ever decided to love less, feel less, give less, fearing being the one who gives too much? Have you ever tried to rationalize your emotions to such an extent that you suppressed your own impulses just to maintain an image of balance? Know that each of these actions, which seem mature, protective, or even strategic, are distorted manifestations of fear. Yes, fear. And what's even worse, fear that you've learned to call wisdom. And control also masquerades as care. When you try to predict how everything will end, even on the first dates. When you want to obtain certainty about another person, even without getting to know them. When you enter a relationship only if you feel it can be safe, you call it caution. But often it's simply your subconscious trying to avoid the unforeseen, which is precisely what true love is all about. Now tell me honestly, how many times have you pushed someone away because you wanted too many guarantees? How many times have you given up halfway through out of fear of seeming vulnerable? How many times have you preferred silence to emotional openness? Leave the answer in the comments. Just write, I acknowledge, if any of these questions have touched you. Not for my sake, for yours. Because when you write, something inside you starts to break the pattern. And in this video that moment can become the beginning of a real transformation. But let's delve deeper. Do you know what the most common trap is for conscious, sensitive, and introspective people like you? It's thinking that by understanding their traumas, they've freed themselves from them. But understanding with the mind isn't the same as trust in the body. You can read all the books, go through all the therapies, watch all the videos, but still, when love appears, real, strong, alive, your reaction is the same as that of a wounded person. You defend yourself, you overanalyze yourself, you hide, and love goes away. Jung said that unconscious reactions don't disappear with reading, but with integration. And to integrate means to live, to feel, to risk falling apart emotionally, to eventually rebuild yourself more authentically. But what if you no longer want to suffer? This is a question that torments many souls, because everyone today has access to deep reflections, emotional content, books that touch old wounds, but few really open up. We live in an era of information about love, but with a generation that's increasingly afraid to love, and perhaps you're one of them, not by your fault, but due to emotional oversaturation, because you've already given yourself to the wrong people, because you were used, disrespected, abandoned, and the result is this: a loving soul that has refused to show love. And that's where destiny clashes, because it even tries to connect you with the right person. But when they appear, they encounter a distrustful, armored, strategically minded version of you, and the meeting doesn't happen. What could have been synchronicity becomes mismatch. Now take a deep breath and think about what you've been doing in your latest romantic encounters. Are you allowing yourself to be yourself? Or are you always trying to appear more interesting, more stable, more desirable than you feel you really are? Are you entering into a conversation as someone who's showing themselves, or as someone who's selling themselves? And moreover, are you really listening to the other person? Or are you only listening eagerly, waiting for approval? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're very important, because the love that's meant for you, the one that Jung considered a manifestation of all that exists, doesn't attract perfect people. It attracts those who are whole, those who accept their flaws, their downfalls, their fears, and still show themselves, present themselves, give themselves. But there's another invisible obstacle we must talk about today: nostalgia for the past. Yes, that quiet force that lives behind the scenes of our current feelings. How many times have you compared someone new with someone old? How many times have you caught yourself waiting to be loved as before, or fearing that you'll be hurt in the same way? It's not nostalgia. It's an emotional prison. You're tied to ghosts, to old feelings that have left scars and unwittingly become the standard for love. But true love cannot be compared, because it's unique, because it's real. It's now. If you can identify with this, leave a comment. Enough of ghosts. It's simple, but full of meaning, because sometimes writing is declaring to the universe that you're ready to break free from repetition. Now, an important point. Perhaps you think that all this is beautiful, but that you're too old to change, that it's too late, that your time has already expired. But listen to me with an open heart. Who said there's an age for love? It's not the heart that ages, it's fear that ages. You're not limited by years. You're limited by the belief that nothing more can be lived with such intensity. Jung saw people at age 60, 70, even 80, who rediscovered love, unlocking parts of themselves that had been dormant since youth. Because the soul has no chronology, it pulsates when it's called. So, if you're here, listening to this, it means that inside you there's still something that wants to believe. And I ask you, in the name of your story, not to extinguish that desire. Allow yourself, at least once, without defending yourself so much, without anticipating so much, without filtering so much, because perhaps the love that's meant for you is already nearby. But it will only reveal itself when you stop rehearsing and start living for real. There's a story that few know, but that accurately reflects what Jung tried to show us throughout his life. He once talked about a patient who had experienced several failed relationships. She was smart, successful, witty. Everyone around her asked, why is she still alone? Or why does she always end up alone? She didn't know. But when she sat before Jung, it only took half a dozen sessions for something to come to light. She was emotionally drawn, although unconsciously, to the idea that true love always comes when you least expect it. And therefore, if you give too much, plan too much, or desire too strongly, you spoil the process. She believed that true love is magic, and that, like all magic, it can't be forced. This, combined with unresolved traumas, made her behave as if she wanted it, but was running away, desired it, but was pushing it away, dreamed of it, but didn't believe it. Jung told her, love isn't a trick of fate. It's a response to your internal state. It doesn't come because you deserve it. It comes because you're ready. Now think with me. How many times have you wished for great love, but inside were full of mistrust? How many times have you asked for a deep connection, but still nurtured a quiet resentment that said, "Don't trust." This happens to more people than we think. Research from the University of Michigan has shown that about 67% of adults over 35, when asked what they want most in a relationship, answered a real emotional connection. But on the other hand, 52% admitted that they avoid showing their emotions out of fear of seeming too vulnerable. That is, we want the truth, but we're afraid to be seen. We want depth, but we're afraid to dive in. Imagine you're in a cafe, alone. Across from you sits a charming person. You start talking. There's chemistry between you, synchronicity, spontaneous laughter. But inside, deep inside, the old system starts to activate. You start asking questions. Will this last 3 days? Are they really interested in me, or only in what I seem to be? Maybe they're already talking to other people on their phone. You don't notice it, but this energy begins to seep into your tone of voice, in your shorter answers, in your gaze, which suddenly seems more distant. And that moment that could have become a bridge turns into a barrier. The other person feels it, without even understanding, and something breaks. You go back home, you replay the conversation in your head. You think you said something wrong. You blame yourself. But deep down you know, it's not about what you said. It's about what you felt and tried to hide. This repeats 1, 2, 5, 10 times, until you start to believe that the problem is you. But it's not. The problem is that you continue to seek love with the emotional systems you learned to build to protect yourself from pain. And protection systems are great for not dying, but bad for living. You need to understand. True love doesn't fit into the social standards that they sell in movies. It's not always beautiful, not always clear, not always easy. Sometimes it comes as a mirror, as discomfort, as restlessness, because it comes not only to fill, but also to reveal. Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is a reaction, both are transformed. Stop. Reflect. When was the last time you allowed someone to change you, not manipulate you, not dominate you, to change you? Most people are looking for someone who will accept them as they are. It sounds beautiful, but there's something deeper, because often who you think you are, your true self, is your conditioned self. Do you want someone to accept your limitations, your traumas, your old habits? But is that love or convenience? The love of destiny will push you to grow, will take you out of your comfort zone, and will shake you. Because it's not medicine. It's a mirror that shows where it still hurts, but also where life still beats. Know what? It only comes when you're ready to let go of something. Yes, let go of it. The old pattern, the old version of yourself, the entrenched beliefs, the cherished fear, the character you created to protect yourself, but which now prevents you from being recognized. I understand. It's hard to hear, but it's also freeing. Look at this other real story. A 48-year-old man, widowed for 7 years, enrolled in a support group because he couldn't feel anything anymore. In that group, he met a woman. They got along. He respected her, admired her, wanted to be with her. But every time he got closer to her, he felt guilty, as if loving again was a betrayal to his deceased wife. He carried within him a quiet pain that said, "If you're happy again, it means you've forgotten." It took months of deep listening before he could say, crying, "I'm afraid that my happiness will be an insult to her memory." And at that moment, something opened up, because the problem was never the new woman. It was the unresolved grief. It was the attachment to pain as part of his identity. This happens to many of us. We keep pain as relics. We use absence as a medal. We nurture suffering to prove that we're hurting a lot. But real love isn't born in a grave. It's born when you accept that moving on doesn't mean forgetting, but honoring the memory. This applies to all kinds of losses. Betrayal, abandonment, interrupted relationships. They only heal when you tell yourself, "I'm no longer going to live in the past." If this touched you, leave it here in the comments. I allow myself to move on. Because writing this not only changes the video algorithm, it changes your vibration, it changes your emotional signature, it changes the field around you. Another statistic. A Stanford University study has shown that people who write about their emotions at least once a week, deeply and consciously, are 34% more likely to build stable, close relationships. Why? Because they're in contact with their truth, and truth attracts. Have you ever heard that energy doesn't lie? That's right. You can try to appear indifferent, but your vibration will show. Whether you're open or closed, it will show. Whether you're waiting for love or still hiding behind emotional defenses. It's useless to have a profile on all the dating apps. It's useless to repeat positive affirmations every day. It's useless to post photos with a smile and spiritual quotes. If inside you vibrate fear, control, and pain, fateful love isn't attracted to ready-made phrases. It's attracted to ready souls. And ready souls are not perfect. They are just available, open, ready to live, make mistakes, try again. And are you ready? Perhaps this is the most important question you can ask yourself today. Not when will it appear, not why it didn't work out with someone, not what's wrong with me, but namely, am I really available? And if the answer is still no, that's fine, because now you know. And knowledge is the first step to stop repeating mistakes. Jung said that nothing changes until it becomes conscious. And awareness doesn't come with answers. It comes with questions, with restlessness, with the discomfort of looking inside yourself and understanding. There's still much to be released to finally allow yourself to love. Perhaps the greatest revolution in your life will start with a simple action. Stop fighting love and start accepting it, with all its uncertainties, imperfections, and surprises. Because in the end, what the soul desires most, it's not control, it's connection. And you deserve it, even if you still doubt, even if you've forgotten how it is. It's time to remember. You've reached this point, and that says a lot. It means that on some deep level, part of you is tired of waiting, tired of repeating the same mistakes, tired of pretending that everything is okay, when in reality there's a sincere desire to love and be truly loved. And now the time has come to look at everything we've talked about with the emotional maturity of a person who no longer wants to just survive, but wants to live a full life. Let's summarize what you've felt so far. We've talked about fear disguised as independence, about control disguised as spirituality, about emotional self-deception that hinders love. We've talked about the masks we wear to appear ready, while inside, we still suffer from unresolved memories. And now the time has come to make room for integration. Because it's not enough just to understand. It's not enough just to feel. It's necessary to transform. Carl Jung said, "You don't become enlightened by imagining images of light, but by acknowledging the darkness." This means that the love that's meant for you will only find you when you stop looking for it outside and start removing from within what prevents it from entering. Love isn't far. It's buried under layers of fear, pride, resistance, armor that you've created for protection, but which today, unfortunately, only serve as walls, blocking the path to the most sublime experience that a soul can experience. And perhaps the first step is to accept that you deserve to live love easily, in the present, without games, without needing to manipulate or play a role. A love in which you don't always have to be at your best, but where you can exist as you are, at peace with your silences, simple gestures, fluctuations. How to achieve this? First, understand that love isn't a reward, it's a consequence. It doesn't appear because you're a good, beautiful, or spiritual person. It appears when you're in harmony with the truth of your soul. And this harmony starts with something very simple, and at the same time revolutionary. Stop running away from your feelings. Have you noticed how we run away from feelings? Are you sad? Turn on the television. Are you lonely? Go to an app. Are you disappointed? Eat something. Are you afraid? Run to occupy yourself with something. But what would happen if for a moment you just stopped and were with that? Just breathed with that feeling, without trying to change it, explain it, or ignore it. You know what will happen? You'll start listening to what it wants to tell you, because every feeling is a message from the soul, and when you listen to it, it transforms. But when you suppress it, it turns into a symptom, into repetition, into sabotage. Fateful love isn't encountered when you're full, resolved, and perfect. It unfolds when you're whole, even if wounded, even if disoriented, even if scared. It's your wholeness that attracts what's true. This takes courage. Courage to step out of the role of victim of life and take on the role of creator of your own emotional destiny. This requires abandoning the repetition of ready-made phrases. No one is good enough. Everyone disappoints. Men, women, only want one thing. I wasn't born for this. And start observing where these ideas come from. They weren't born with you. They were assimilated, They were created to protect you, but today they're limiting you. Are you ready to question them? Because if so, something very deep will begin. The reality around you will change. The people you attract will change. Your perception of love will change. Because your frequency will change. And frequency is everything. If you vibrate in emotional deficit, you attract a deficit of love. If you vibrate in distrust, you attract people who further amplify that distrust. But if you vibrate in truth, in openness, in presence, then what comes to you doesn't have to be perfect, just real. And perhaps this is where the greatest beauty of love lies. It doesn't come to fill a void. It comes to dance with your fullness. It comes to expand what already exists, rather than to solve what's missing. But be careful. Don't confuse this with the complex notion that I can only love when I'm happy with myself. That's another fallacy. You don't need to be on top. You just need to be honest. The one who loves, truly loves, even with pain, with doubts, with scars. What changes is that you start to love consciously, not out of need. And to love consciously means to allow yourself to be vulnerable. It means talking about your feelings without guarantees. It means choosing to be present, even when the fear of being abandoned appears. It means talking not to win an argument, but to establish a connection. It means not giving up on someone just because he or she touched your traumas, but using that as an opportunity for mutual healing. You know why this is so rare today? Because it requires presence. And presence doesn't combine with speed. And we live in an era where everything happens quickly. Relationships have accelerated, expectations are high, and no one wants to wait anymore. But true love, it takes time, it matures, it unfolds gradually, it tests, it requires patience. And only those who are no longer in a hurry can experience it fully. Now tell me, are you still in a hurry? Or have you already realized that what belongs to you doesn't need to be achieved, but just recognized? Perhaps this is the deepest turn you can make inside yourself. Get out of search mode and enter recognition mode, because often the love you're seeking has already tried to enter your life, but you were too busy trying to control everything to notice it. Perhaps the right person has already passed you by, but you were so busy being someone you aren't that they passed you by. Or perhaps they haven't come yet, because at this moment, life is asking you to see yourself first, before someone sees you. Do you accept this? If so, the next step is to take responsibility for everything you feel. Not guilt, responsibility. This means stopping blaming others for your life. Stop saying that others have hurt you, and start understanding that you've accepted that pain because you don't yet know what you deserve. This changes everything, because when you change how you treat yourself, you also change the type of love you accept. And finally, you stop seeking the right love, and start becoming the person who naturally attracts it. If you've reached this point with an open heart, now is the best time to put this into practice. Therefore, in the next video, I'll show you a practical and emotionally intelligent step-by-step plan to bring all this to life, not only in theory, but in everyday life, in conversations, in choices, in the most intimate decisions. A deep, sensitive, and direct plan to tune your soul to the vibration of the love that's truly meant for you. Now that you've heard everything, answer, from the depths of your heart, what still prevents you from living the love your soul craves. This isn't a rhetorical question, it's a question of reunification, because the truth is that you already carry within you everything you need to allow that love to happen, but perhaps you lacked clarity on how to access it, on how to get out of the emotional repetition, and finally stand in the place where true love can find you. And that is precisely why this last part, it's not just a conclusion, it's a transition, an invitation, step by step, firmly and delicately, to what belongs to you, in essence, but which hasn't yet been accepted, because the truest parts of you were dormant or hidden. Here, you will encounter a practical, strategic plan. It's not a superficial list of generic advice, but an emotional, internal, and specific path that will help you apply everything you've heard so far in a real and sensitive way. A plan that will help you bring your actions, choices, and thoughts into alignment with the frequency of the love that's meant for you. Step 1. Conscious silence. Every day, take 5 minutes to sit in complete silence, without music, without distractions, only with breathing and the thoughts that come. At this moment, don't try to control anything. Just observe. This is a step towards awareness. It's here that you start to distinguish the voice of your intuition from the voice of your trauma, because true love only responds to your intuition. When you live in a rush, trying to understand everything rationally, you distance yourself from the only compass capable of leading you to reality. Step 2. The unfulfilled letter. Write a letter, not to a specific person, but to the idea of love. Speak openly. Write what you feel. What do you expect? What has disappointed you? What still hurts you? What do you still desire? Then read the letter out loud to yourself, as if you're listening to how your inner child expresses itself. Don't send it. Burn it. Tear it. Let it go. This is a step of emotional unloading. You clear the channel that needs to be opened so that the new can come. While you keep stuck words inside, old feelings, anger that was never heard, there's no room for the new. Step 3. New vector. For a week, record all your automatic reactions to people. For example, someone leaves, and you feel anger, you feel rejection, you feel guilty. Write it down, and at the next moment, consciously choose a different reaction. If you were silent before, say something kind. If you blamed the other before, look inside yourself. If you ran away before, try to stay. This is a step of repositioning. It's here that you start to rewrite, through small actions, the patterns that previously dominated your approach to love. Step 4. Daily mirror. For 7 days, look at yourself in the mirror for 2 minutes without judgment. Don't look for flaws. Don't praise yourself artificially. Just look. Look at your eyes, at how you look, at the energy you radiate. After 2 minutes, ask out loud, what do you want today? And listen. This may seem simple, even silly, but it's one of the most transformative exercises, because you'll start to realize how much you've ignored your own emotional needs and how much you demand from others what you yourself aren't ready to offer. This is a step towards self-integration. The love that's meant for you recognizes those who already deeply see themselves. Step 5. Public promise. Choose a person you trust. It can be a friend, a therapist, a family member, someone from your closest circle. Share with that person that you're entering a process of opening up to true love. Not just any love, but one that requires truth, consistency, conscious surrender. By expressing this out loud, you enter into an emotional agreement with your soul. This is a step towards emotional responsibility with yourself. When you publicly commit to healing yourself and achieving your goal, the field around you begins to vibrate differently. Step 6. Forgiveness ritual. Choose a day. Light a candle.